Most people think Reveal, Rise and Reign is just another revenge drama. A poor man betrayed, humiliated, and later becoming powerful. But if you look closer, this story was never really about revenge. It's about power, identity, and the moment someone stops pretending to be weak. Because in this drama, the most dangerous character isn't the richest one. It's the one everyone underestimated. And today, we're breaking down the characters, the hidden psychology, and the details most viewers completely missed. At the beginning of Reveal, Rise and Reign, we are introduced to a man who seems completely ordinary, quiet, humble, almost invisible. He isn't respected by his family, ignored by society, and constantly treated as someone who failed in life. But this is where the drama does something very interesting. Instead of showing weakness as reality, it presents weakness as a disguise. Because the main character isn't powerless. He's patient. Every insult he receives, every moment of humiliation, becomes part of a much bigger calculation. And psychologically, this changes how we see him. He's not losing. He's waiting for the perfect moment to stop pretending. One of the smartest decisions this drama makes is hiding the truth in plain sight. While everyone around him sees weakness, small details begin to suggest something else. Notice how strangers treat him with unexpected respect, how certain conversations suddenly stop when he enters the room. These moments aren't accidental. The series slowly builds a question inside the viewer's mind. Who is he, really? Unlike traditional revenge stories, the protagonist never tries to defend himself. He doesn't argue. He doesn't explain. And that silence becomes his greatest weapon. Because power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it waits, watching people reveal their true nature before revealing its own. And by the time the audience realizes what's happening, the balance of power has already started to shift. Every great revenge story has a breaking point, a moment when silence is no longer an option. In Reveal, Rise and Reign, that moment doesn't arrive with anger. It arrives with calm. After enduring endless humiliation, the protagonist finally stops pretending. And what makes this scene powerful isn't violence or confrontation. It's confidence. For the first time, he doesn't lower his gaze. He doesn't apologize. He simply stands, as if the entire situation no longer affects him. This subtle shift completely changes the power dynamic. The people who once mocked him begin to feel something unfamiliar: doubt. Because deep down, they realize they may have misunderstood him all along. And then comes the detail most viewers miss. The camera stops looking down at him and starts looking up. Symbolically, the series tells us one thing: the man they looked down on is finally rising. Once the truth begins to surface, everything changes. The same people who ignored him now watch every move he makes. Respect replaces mockery. Silence replaces arrogance. But what makes his rise fascinating is that he never seeks revenge immediately. Instead, he does something far more intimidating. He succeeds effortlessly. Wealth, influence, and authority begin to follow him naturally, as if this world was always meant to belong to him. And psychologically, this is where the drama becomes powerful. Because fear doesn't come from punishment. It comes from realization. The realization that they once stood above a man who now stands far beyond their reach. Notice how his behavior never changes. He remains calm, controlled, untouchable. Which makes one question unavoidable. Was he rising? Or was he simply returning to where he always belonged? Power never rises unnoticed. And in Reveal, Rise and Reign, his transformation doesn't only attract admiration, it creates fear. Because the moment someone rises too fast, others begin to ask dangerous questions. Former allies grow uncomfortable. Old rivals return. And those who once benefited from his silence start realizing they may become his next obstacle. What makes this phase of the story compelling is that the real conflict is no longer external. It's psychological. People around him are no longer fighting the man he was. They're fighting the man he has become. And for the first time, we see hesitation in their confidence. They don't know his limits. They don't know his connections. And most importantly, they don't know how far he's willing to go. The drama quietly shifts from revenge to dominance. Because now, the question is no longer whether he will rise. It's who will survive his reign. Every rise comes with a price. And in Reveal, Rise and Reign, power doesn't only change how the world sees him, it changes the people closest to him. As his influence grows, relationships begin to fracture. Trust becomes fragile. Loyalty becomes uncertain. The people who once stood beside him now struggle to understand who he truly is. And this creates one of the drama's most realistic conflicts, because success doesn't just reveal enemies, it reveals intentions. Some admire his strength, some fear his control, and others begin to wonder if the man they once knew still exists at all. What makes this moment powerful is that he never openly reacts. He understands something most characters don't. The higher you rise, the lonelier the view becomes. And for the first time, victory starts to feel surprisingly heavy. By the end of Reveal, Rise and Reign, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. This was never just a story about revenge. It was a transformation. From silence to authority, from humiliation to control. The man once dismissed as insignificant now stands at the center of power. But what makes his journey fascinating isn't wealth or status, it's understanding. He now sees people clearly, who respected him when he had nothing, who betrayed him when he seemed weak, and who only returned once success appeared. In many ways, his reign doesn't begin when he gains power. It begins when he no longer needs approval. And that is the drama's deepest message. True power isn't proving others wrong. It's outgrowing the need to prove anything at all. Which leaves us with one final question. Has he finally won? Or has power only begun to change him? Because sometimes, the greatest battle starts after the victory.